Coming up on the Empowered Woman podcast.
It wasn't my mom breaking me. It
Mm.
wasn't all the clients and the pressure breaking me. It wasn't my trauma breaking me. It was my own beliefs. And my beliefs were driving me to burnout and they were driving me to relationship conflict.
Welcome to the Empowered Woman podcast, the #1 show on visibility strategies for women entrepreneurs. If you want to get empowered to be seen, stand out on social media, stages, TV, and more to make an impact with your voice and business, you're in the right place. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Marcia Spurk, and I'm your host, professional singer and visibility strategist. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, Marta. Thank
Yay.
you.
Yes, I'm excited to hear more about your story. So much to share. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Tracy Doyle. I actually am a former CEO. I built and led an award-winning business, and I sold it in 2023. So today I am a resilience coach, and I'm helping women who are struggling with burnout and relationship conflicts overcome, you know, the unconscious patterns that are sort of keeping them stuck in burnout relationship conflicts, so that they can lead and come from a place of calm, clarity, and confidence in their lives.
I love that so much. And obviously, from experience, right? I'd love to hear more about your corporate career and then um, experiencing burnout yourself and then transitioning into entrepreneurship and helping women in that fashion. Why don't you just take us back?
Yeah, so I have to take it way back, right? Because, I sort of my journey really started becoming a caretaker at the age of 10. My mom was mentally ill, sadly, and had me as a teen. And basically, what that was like was by the time I was 7, she married. She sadly married an alcoholic. We came into his life at his sort of bottom. So I really stepped up early. And I became an overachiever early. And, for me, growing up in addiction, it was all about, getting out of that. How do I do that? So, school was my respite. And that's sort of where it started. First in my family to go to college, graduated with high honors, and wanted to be a psychologist and a counselor. But sadly, because I put myself through school, I worked 3 jobs. I just couldn't afford that advanced degree. So I pivoted, as most entrepreneurs learn. So I learned pivot very early. I pivoted to the pharmaceutical industry. Honestly, I was mentored by a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and she worked in the agency I worked for, and she actually showed me how I can take my skills and reapply them somewhere else, which I did. Had a tremendous career in the pharmaceutical industry. As time went on, though, as most of us know, um, I basically started to burn out, right? And I hit I hit a really, really bad breaking point, because here I am in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm doing well. I ultimately pivot out of that to what's called medical communications. It's sort of a niche industry where I ultimately started my business that really works with the pharmaceutical companies to sort of bring the newer science and the advances in medicine to clinicians. So big job, managing it all. Great salary,
Mm.
good car. I had it all on the outside, right? Inside, I was quietly falling apart, and I had a breaking point. Um, it was pretty bad. It was, in December of 1999, actually. And, it took me to this place, because what burnout does is it starts out feeling like stress. It starts out, you're just sort
Mhm.
of overwhelmed, right? And, not overwhelmed, stressed with everything happening. More responsibilities get layered
Yeah.
on our shoulders. The overwhelm starts, right? From there, where burnout really starts to show itself, and this is what happened to me before my breaking point, I started feeling like I was in conflict with everyone. So it starts where it's sort of like, everyone's against me. No one listens to me. No one understands what I'm asking for. And the more I became a leader, the more, if you will, as the pressure started to mount,
Hmm.
the more I started to burn. So at this point in my career, I was, basically a senior director, managing a lot of business. I was the top performer in my organization. And it got to that point where I just couldn't handle one more thing. I was melting down. I was imploding at home. I was exploding at work. It was just rough. And burnout takes a lot of us to a place where some of us turn to alcohol, some turn to food, some turn to retail therapy, others turn to depression, others go where I went pretty far. I just kept pushing, 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 and I got to a point of really, I wanted to take my life,
Mm.
So that was rough. And as I got through that, because that night was rough, and so if you want to hear that part of the story, it's pretty intense. So let me know if you want to
Oh
hear
yeah,
that.
absolutely. If you're up for
Oh,
sharing.
oh, it's vulnerable. I mean,
Mhm.
it was December 21st of 1999. It was a cold gray winter's day. I just couldn't even recognize myself anymore. I just, I get a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My eyes are hollow, my spirit's dim, and I just like I didn't recognize me. I just looked so empty. And in that moment, like I said to myself, I'm done. Like I'm done being responsible for my mom. At this point, I'm taking care of my sister's kids. I became, a Insta
Mhm.
mom. I'm done taking care of my sister's kids. I'm done like managing everything at work and being stretched in every direction. I'm done being the fixer. And in that moment,
Yeah.
I said to myself, you know, you got good and drunk. Maybe you'd crash the car. And if you crash the car, no
Mm.
one's going to know you did it on purpose. You see, I didn't want anyone. Uh-oh. I think we're still recording. Well, I didn't want anyone knowing that I was weak and vulnerable. You there? Are you back?
I'm sorry, connection issues. I lost you right where you said, and I'm sorry about that because it was such a good piece of the story. When you said if I crash the car, no one will know that it was
Yeah.
intentional.
Yeah, no one would know that I did it on purpose. And and I never wanted anyone to know I was weak because from the outside, I managed everything effortlessly. That's what it looked like to
Mhm.
everybody. I had it together. I
Yeah.
did it all. I managed it all. But inside, I was falling apart. And so that night, I went through with it. And, I was jolted awake by someone knocking on my car window and yelling, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And, I was like, what have I done? Like, 'cause my car was on the opposite side of the road on oncoming traffic, and I was a
Mm.
hair away from a head-on collision. To this
Oh my
day, I don't know how I lived. And that next day, when it really hit me what could have happened, I'm walking to a school meeting for a
God.
third grader. And, I'm sobbing. I'm like, what have you done? My head is screaming at me, Tracy, you could have
Mm.
killed two people. My heart's going, Tracy, you're still here.
Mhm.
And that was it. That was the
Mm.
turning point because in that moment I realized, I always grew up believing I had to sacrifice myself for everyone and everything, starting at the age of 10.
Right.
And in that moment, it was like sacrifice, Tracy, doesn't mean abandoning yourself. It
Mhm.
means putting yourself first while you're managing it all. So for me, the big learning was, vulnerability doesn't mean weakness. I
Yes.
had to get help. So I did. And over a course of like 10 years, it felt like I had to be treated for depression. Obviously, I was
Mhm.
suicidal. I went to therapy, I dealt with trauma. But over time, what happened was I got better, right? I get a bigger job after I recover from this. And I'm like, now I'm a senior vice president, and I'm doing it all. And I learned how to start my own business from this experience because I joined a startup. And when I started my own company in 2002, it was exciting, but within a couple of years, that the burnout symptoms started to come back,
Mm.
right? And so what I realized was, as I learned over the course of that 10 years, it wasn't my mom breaking me. It
Mm.
wasn't all the clients and the pressure breaking me. It wasn't my trauma breaking me. It was my own beliefs. And my beliefs were driving
Mm.
me to burnout, and they were driving me to relationship conflict. And then I realized at that moment, I'm like,
Mm.
girl, it is time. You got to go deeper with yourself on this and you got to figure this out. And that's sort of how it all came to be. And that's what drove me to creating the Aurora.
Oh my God. Oh, that is amazing. Again, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing the story because I think a lot of people can resonate with some of the pieces, like what you're saying. And also in describing
the early symptoms of burnout, because it's a word that gets thrown out a lot, burnout, overwhelm.
Exactly.
But for you to describe, how it shows up, it's so helpful because sometimes people don't think that they have it, so they're not seeking help. They think it's normal, or maybe it's just them. So all those things. And how fascinating that when you said you were pulled and you wanted to get a psychology degree, that all these years later, now you're not only did you have a mentor in that in those early
Exactly.
uh, stages, but then to be able to work with people right now, that is just incredible. Tell
Marta,
about
it's full
then building the
circle.
business and then deciding
Yeah,
to walk away.
full circle for
Yeah.
me.
And isn't it how life goes? Love that.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, after building, I was in the business for over 20 years and basically I wanted to sell it in 2018 because I was mentoring women doing what's now the Aurora Method. It didn't have a name yet. And I mentored
Hmm.
dozens of professional women who were burning out. And I realized like, this is it. Like, I want to do this, but getting out of the business was not as easy as I thought. And what I hadn't realized at
Mm.
that time was the business had outgrown my skills. And so I had to relinquish
Mhm.
the CEO position, which I did in 2019. And I handed the reins over, and then we worked together in terms of exit, our exit plan and exit strategy. So I
Right.
knew once I exited, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. So
Mhm. Oh, that is so wonderful. Oh, I just want to, I just remembered something that you said that was like a mic drop, that sacrifice isn't abandoning yourself. That is so, so cool. I just wanted to repeat it because it was really, really impactful. All right, so tell us about the book now because we want to hear. Tell us the name, how people can find it, and then I'd love to hear what's in it and the journey of writing it.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Would you like to be my next guest on the Empowered Woman podcast? Do you have a story you'd like to share? Want more visibility for your business on a show ranked in the top 0.5% in the world? Well, then head on over to martasburk.com/podcast guest for more information.
yeah, so the book, when I sold, I was like, this is it, I'm starting it. So the book is called Life Storms Finding Your Clear Sky. So for anyone out there who's an entrepreneur, who's a woman who manages it all, what it's about is how our life experiences shape our thinking and how our thinking really leads us in our leadership, right? So think about, like, for
Mhm.
me, when I said before the burnout symptoms came back, what did I mean? For many of us with burnout, we either implode, so we shut down. So think about, you get
Mhm.
home, you don't recognize that your burnout's burning your relationship. So you're so busy at work, you get home, you shut down, you're mentally divorcing, your husband, you're pulling away, you're
Yeah.
isolating, right? On the outside, you're having explosions, you're frustrated, you might be frustrated at work, you might be reacting at ways, at least I did. I reacted in ways that were just disproportionate for what was happening. So someone might come in with a client problem and all of a sudden I'm freaking out and I couldn't control it. And it wasn't hormones. I will say that it wasn't hormones. And so when you start having those disproportionate reactions, so if you're imploding or you're exploding, key signal there, right? So over the years, what
Mhm.
I had to do is piece together what worked because I was so frustrated as a leader, it embarrassed me when I would react the way that I did. And so, you know, any burnout literature, again, I was in the pharmaceutical industry. So any burnout literature says change your
Mhm.
mindset, right? And for me, it was like in the midst of all that, how do I do that? Right. I'm like, seriously? Like I got all this pressure. Right. So anyway, the book is all about how I found my solution. And I call it the Aurora Method. The Aurora Method is the goddess of dawn, which means at any point in your day, you can start over. But for me, it was a framework that I had to learn. First was I had to understand how my life experiences shape my thinking. Why? Because what I call the reaction cascade, in the absence of understanding this trigger out here and that reaction out there, I wanted to understand what's in this space. And what I've learned through
Mhm.
this is multiple conversations, multiple influences in my life. What I learned was that when we're triggered, right? And for all of us, we're all wounded. We've all had experiences in our lives. Some of us, it's trauma. Some of us, it's critical parents that put a lot of pressure on us. Others of us, it's being bullied at school or made fun of. So we basically
Yeah.
create a thought, right? In my case, I created a thought I don't belong. right? Because of my situation with my mom marrying at the age of
Yeah.
7. If you read my story, you'll see that I grew up believing I just never belonged because of an experience that I had had. And it sat with me, right? So anytime that spidey sense came up where I sensed that you didn't want me there or I didn't belong, you know, I'm not good enough. We all have the same, it's remarkable no matter what's happened, our wounds matter. We turn it into I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy. But as soon as that limiting
Mhm.
belief stokes, fear, I always shoot it to my feet, comes right back up
Mhm.
in between my two ears, negative thinking. And that negative thinking swirl, 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 and then I react to it, right? So I had to find that space, right? What was the fear? What do I do in the presence of it? What self-centered thought, negative thought is in there? And so I call that the city of limitation. So what I learned was if you can see the or like see what the wound does, right? So if you can name that wound and see what it does by way of what it created by way of fear and what I call issues, because if you think of the word selfish, which is part of self-centeredness, right? You're like, don't
Mhm.
call me selfish, I manage everything. But the ish is the thing we're absorbed with. Pity, self-reliance was my big
Mhm.
problem as a CEO. I thought I had to do everything myself, right? There's so many issues. Self-importance. Look, I'm the CEO. You need to listen to me, right? So you start thinking about all the things
Mhm.
that that create. When I learned how to see it, name it, I learned how to practice my own personalized mindfulness to change it, which then changed how I responded to the outside world. That's what the book is about. It's giving you how my life experiences shape me first. Then I take people through the Aurora Method, which is basically 4 phases. It starts with that self-assessment, identifying how your life experiences shaped you,
Mhm. Mhm.
emotional clarity, seeing your patterns, right? And
Mhm.
then building your own personalized mindfulness. Because for me, when people would say, just say I'm enough, like with affirmations, that didn't work for me. And
Yeah.
sitting in the CEO seat, it didn't work. But when I was able to say, like, I'm releasing fear and I'm breathing in trust that all is going to be well, and I'm centered and I'm calm and I'm open and receptive to listening. I'm listening and I'm sitting in my mind going, I'm listening, and I'm nodding as you're talking to me, but I'm staying
Mhm.
calm.
Mhm.
As a CEO, that was huge, and
Yeah.
and I shifted my reactions. And so what I do is I teach that method in the book as if I'm just sitting across the coffee table with you, guiding you
Mhm.
through this process. But ultimately, what it's about, once we get through that, is how do you build bridges back to the people who matter? Because burnout fractures our relationships too. So
Yeah.
what do we do at home? How do we shift at work? And I just shared with you a way to shift at work. And
Mhm.
so that's really what it's about. And it's designed to give you your own roadmap to create your own personal approach so that you can practice your own mindfulness the way,
Mhm.
in terms of what works for you. So that's the book. You can get it on Amazon.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, you have such a great way of explaining things. And I wondered about the Aurora method. So the dawn piece, you can start it at any time
Yep.
throughout the day, start over. That is so cool. I love that. So people will have to check out the book. I'll make sure and put that in the show notes. Tell us about how you work with clients then, and if somebody's listening that may be resonating with your message, what are their first steps?
Yeah, there's 2 ways to work with me. And the first step is just go to meetwithtracy.coach and schedule a free 30-minute session. And
Okay.
let's talk about, where are you at, in terms of where are you right now? Where are you at your wit's end?
Hmm.
Where do you feel you're struggling and where you need help? But there's 2 ways to work with me. Once we decide what makes sense, one-on-one, where I'll give you an individualized approach through the Aurora method. I'll take you right through it. We'll go real deep.
Nice.
Or if that's too scary or you want more connection, I actually do group sessions,
Okay.
12 weeks, where I take people through the Aurora method, but it's more workshop style. So you're building relationships with others and then you're doing the work. So it's not like just pure work, but the idea is that 12 weeks, it's a 90-minute session. It's workshop style for a reason. No homework.
Mm.
Who has time, right, for homework and who wants to
Yeah.
feel bad about themselves that they can't keep up? So it's about giving yourself permission for that 90 minutes a week in a group setting or meeting with me weekly for an hour. So,
Awesome. I love that
yeah.
there's the two different options, but then meeting with you to decide which one works best is the way to go. Do you have any client or talk that you can share? Obviously, you're your ultimate client. What a transformation! But anything that comes to mind that you want to share with us?
I couldn't hear your question. I'm sorry. Could you repeat it? It just broke up.
That's okay. No, I said, Do you have any client stories that come to mind, like top of mind, that you could share of transformation with
Oh, so
us?
many. I would say one of my favorites is a woman who high-powered position at a major consultancy. She's also a physician. And so, so she's someone who is, the woman who manages it all, and has it all. Beautiful home, beautiful family, loving husband. And what happened with her was she was finding herself burning out and melting down, like reducing into a puddle at work, even though she had a senior level position in her organization. And and she came to me, and what we were talking about was, let's do the Aurora method. Let's find out what's driving all this, right? Because even at home, she was at odds with her husband and couldn't figure out what was driving it. So, long story, we do the self-assessment. We do an exercise called the turnaround. And what we uncover, she had a belief that no one supported her as a result of an experience that she had had. And it was simply, she came home from school. She thought kids thought she was fat. She felt shunned by the kids at school. She asked her parents, like, do you think I'm fat? And of course, loving parents like lovingly dismiss it, like that's ridiculous. But she internalized it as nobody supports me and nobody cares about how I feel. And so she carried this for years and years and years. It starts playing out. So what we did was we built her own personalized mindfulness approach. She started practicing it. And there's another piece to the relationship building where we're building bridges back, which is called acknowledgement conversations. So she started really practicing the resets, the mindfulness, which is called the end of day reflection, and then the morning intention. She starts practicing it. And as she started, having the churn during the day, she started practicing acknowledgement conversations. And so my favorite story is she'd been practicing for a while. She got her relationship with her husband just night and day improved because she realized it was coming from within her. She always complained about the in-laws with him and stopped because she realized what she had. She had a wonderful family, but work is really where it kept coming back. And so what she found herself doing, and anytime she felt that she wasn't supported, she would cry, she would cancel meetings, and the junior team would want to support her. And so what she realized after one incident that happened, she called me actually for an emergency session, and we walked through how that belief came back, and we walked through how she hadn't paused and done the work, which is the 1 minute reset, using your affirmations. And so she personalized it. We practiced on how to have a conversation, and she did. And the good news was she was elevated, right? And basically because she started shifting how she was handling herself at work. And that was a huge, like, personal transformation, but professional transformation. The second is I'm currently working with someone. She has a very significant leadership role in her organization in the financial business. And what she struggles with is her relationships more at home. And what she found was that she had a situation where she couldn't come out and recognize that she had her family lost their mom at a young age. And she couldn't realize that her sister was grieving too. So she was feeling like nobody took care of her, right? And then she finally had an epiphany, and she'd been fractured from her family. And she had this epiphany that, wow, she was grieving too. And I was putting expectations on her and acting accordingly with this belief that nobody cared and no one took care of her. And so she mended that. And now her home life is fulfilled. She's still very professional. And what she's finding now at work, and she just told me this 2 weeks ago, that she's now seeing people's wounds at work, and it's shifting how she's
Ooh.
leading the conversation, which is awesome. So she's seeing burnout and recognizing it in the workplace. So those are my two favorite stories of late.
Oh, that is so good. It's so interesting how it all goes back to those beliefs that we pick up in childhood and it trickles over to personal, professional life. And once we start seeing
Exactly.
it, we get to see it in other people too and support them through it or be more understanding since we're going through that
Exactly.
journey.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
I call it see it, name it, change it,
That's all.
right? Because when you're living that,
Mm-hmm.
you're not personalizing someone who's reacting now. You're looking at it going, not to say I wonder what their wound is, but obviously they have unresolved wounds, because when they're unresolved, those beliefs just sit back in the back of our minds, and they quietly drive us. And we don't realize it. And they distort how we think, how
Mhm.
we feel, how we relate to other people. And so if you're finding yourself blaming them, it's time to look at you. That's what I always say to the people I coach. It's time to look within, not look at you, but look within and find what's quietly
Yeah.
driving you to these fractures in your relationships.
It's always a reflection of yourself, right? Whatever comes up. I love that. That's so good. Well, before I have you share with us how people can connect with you, you see your website, the book, perhaps if you hang out anywhere, asking all of my guests my $1 million question. It is, what is an, see,
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
sorry, what is an empowered woman to you?
Oh, that's so what an empowered woman to me is someone who actually can speak her truth calmly. Because for me, I could not speak my truth calmly. I couldn't express my needs calmly. And as an empowered woman today, no matter where I'm at, professionally, personally, I can express myself in a way that supports me the way I need to be supported, if that makes any sense. That's empowerment today. And for me, what that empowerment brings is personal fulfillment because I feel connected to the people in my life.
So good. I love that. Well, tell us how people can connect with you. Do you hang out anywhere on social media?
Oh, I'm on LinkedIn, so please feel free to just follow me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. I tend to spend more time on LinkedIn because I've been on that for so many years, and I like to communicate with people there. So if anyone's on LinkedIn, please feel free to connect with me. I'd love to stay in touch.
Sounds wonderful. Well, thank you so much for turning your life story into such an amazing tool to support other women out there. I'll make sure and put all the links in the show notes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, Marta.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode empowered you. And if you enjoyed the show, please join the Empowered Woman community on Facebook and share with friends or leave a review on iTunes so more people can discover this empowering message. Until next time, bye.